A last voicemail before a sudden death. What did wrestler Roddy Piper say to a friend shortly before he died of a heart attack? His and other wrestlers' final words are more tragic and surprising than you might believe. A member of the legendary Hart wrestling family, Owen Hart played a pivotal part in World Wrestling Entertainment throughout the 90s. At the 1999 Over the Edge pay-per-view held in Kansas City, Missouri, Owen Hart died a tragic, in-ring death as a pre-planned flashy entrance went horribly wrong. Wrestling as the Blue Blazer, the performer was meant to descend from the rafters before his match against The Godfather for the Intercontinental Championship. However, the release mechanism connecting his harness to the rope gave way as the wrestler plummeted from the top of the arena and crashed onto the ring ropes. Hart was pronounced dead a few minutes later. Appearing on the Dark Side of the Ring episode, The Final Days of Owen Hart, wrestling manager and on-screen personality Jim Cornette stated, "When Owen was falling, everybody that was there said the last thing that he yelled was, 'Look out.'" In late 2000s WWE, Shad Gaspard made a name for himself as part of the tag team Crime Time, along with his partner, JTG. The pair played goofy criminals who would do everything from scalping tickets outside of the arena to stealing other wrestlers' personal items. In May 2020, the 39-year-old Gaspard encountered rough ocean conditions in Venice Beach and subsequently drowned. According to the New York Times, the professional wrestler and his 10-year-old son, Arya, were swimming in the ocean when the currents turned turbulent. An on-duty male lifeguard noticed the incident and rushed into the sea to pull them out. Since Arya was closer, the lifeguard managed to get him first. However, when he went back for Gaspard, the wrestler disappeared under a massive wave. Gaspard's body was found on the beach 3 days later. According to witnesses, Gaspard's only concern was for the safety of his son, as he urged the lifeguard to help Arya.
He handed off his son and pushed him and said, "Save my son."
Widely regarded as one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time and a generational talent, Eddie Guerrero reached the top of the WWE mountain in 2004, winning his sole WWE championship after defeating Brock Lesnar at the No Way Out pay-per-view. Even after losing the title a while later, he continued to be a beloved performer among fans as he would lie, cheat, and steal his way to victory. In November 2005, the wrestling world received a major shock after the 38-year-old Guerrero died of a heart attack. Later, it was confirmed that Guerrero had a heart disease exacerbated by years of using steroids, as well as the recent usage of pain medication. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Guerrero's final words were spoken to his wife, Vicky. Reportedly, the couple chatted at 2:30 in the morning, just before he went to bed, when he took the opportunity to express his love for her. Antonio Inoki remains one of the most important and prominent names in Japanese and global pro wrestling as a whole. As an all-star performer and promoter, his love for sports entertainment shone through in everything he did, which even saw him take on legend Muhammad Ali in a wrestling versus boxing contest. In 2022, Inoki died at the age of 79, with NJPW revealing the cause to be amyloidosis, a disease that affects the organs. Before his death, a 10-minute video was released of him in the hospital where he addressed his fans. In the footage, Inoki admitted that he didn't want people to see him in that condition, but he wanted to address those wondering about him. Toward the end of the video, the cameraman told him that everyone was rooting for him. In cheerful fashion, Inoki said, "This voice that I have is my number one rival, but as long as one has an adversary to push you on, isn't that a good thing?" Macho Man Randy Savage ran wild in the 80s. Even though the focus may have been on Hulk Hogan as the face of pro wrestling in that era, every fan, pundit, and performer recognized the extraordinary abilities of Savage both on the microphone and in between the ropes. After jumping ship from WWE to WCW in the 90s, Savage continued to capture the attention of the world with his over-the-top wrestling persona and buckets of charisma. One of his most high-profile appearances came in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, where he plays Bonesaw McGraw, essentially a prototype version of the Macho Man character.
"Hey, Freak Joe! You're going nowhere!"
By 2011, Savage was no longer an active wrestler, living a quiet life out of the spotlight. This all changed on May 20th, when Savage died of heart disease. This caused him to lose consciousness while driving the car that carried him and his wife, Lynn. Savage's wife only suffered minor injuries in the resultant accident after her husband passed out at the wheel. According to Bleacher Report, Savage told his wife he was feeling unwell that morning. Lynn thought nothing of it, thinking he only needed to eat breakfast. However, she noticed he still didn't look himself after they had stopped at a restaurant for a meal, and she offered to drive. Savage declined. According to Lynn, he told her, "I think I'm going to pass out," a statement which proved to be his last words. He was 58 years old. Jon Huber became a household name as Luke Harper, a sinister member of the cult-like Wyatt family on WWE television. In December 2019, however, Huber departed WWE. He would reappear in All Elite Wrestling a few months later under the moniker of Brodie Lee, a name that Huber had used in his early wrestling days. Lee made an instant splash, being revealed as the leader of the burgeoning faction known as the Dark Order and winning the TNT Championship from Cody Rhodes. Despite making a fast start to life in AEW, Lee disappeared from the screens a few months later. In December 2020, it was announced that Lee had died. His wife, Amanda, revealed on the AEW Unrestricted podcast that he had died from idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. At the same time, Amanda also shared heartwarming stories about Lee and their kids. She revealed how their son Brody wanted to dress up as AEW wrestler Orange Cassidy for Halloween. However, Amanda pointed out that Cassidy only wears sunglasses and a denim jacket, so that isn't really a costume. When she visited her husband in the hospital, she told him how Brody was upset with her for not buying him the denim jacket. She said on the podcast, "I'm not even joking when I say that one of the last spoken words my husband said to me was, 'Go buy him a denim jacket.'" The Ultimate Warrior flexed his way into WWE folklore. However, he had numerous issues with the company before being inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2014. In fact, it seemed all but impossible that they would work together again. But the relevant parties managed to put aside their differences and come together to honor the legacy of the man billed as hailing from parts unknown. After appearing at the Hall of Fame ceremony, Warrior stopped by Monday Night Raw on April 7th. Going out in front of the live crowd, he cut one of his typical nonsensical promos that only he could understand. Nothing too out of the ordinary for anyone who watched him in the 80s and 90s, really. He closed off his speech by saying, "I am Ultimate Warrior. You are the Ultimate Warrior fans, and the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever." This would prove to be one of his final statements, as Warrior died a day later. Warrior was walking with his wife to the car when he passed out and was taken to a hospital, but it was too late. The Ultimate Warrior's autopsy report revealed he died from cardiovascular disease. He was 54 years old. Joni Laurer, or Chyna, broke the mold for female performers in WWE as she defied the traditional model of how women were seen and presented on wrestling television. Billed as the ninth wonder of the world, Chyna became the first woman to hold the Intercontinental Championship and formed a critical part of the legendary faction D-Generation X, becoming one of the biggest stars of the company's Attitude Era. In April 2016, however, news broke that Chyna had died. According to the autopsy report, her cause of death was related to a combination of alcohol, muscle relaxants, and painkillers. She was only 46 years old. A year later, documentary filmmaker Eric Angra shared the last voicemail he received from Chyna with People. Angra had been filming a documentary about her life, and the pair had been in regular communication. In the message, which is believed to be one of her final communications with anyone, Chyna tells Angra that she planned on going to rehab, while also asking the filmmaker how he was doing. She ends the nearly 4-minute message by saying, "Love you, bye." Matt Osborne struggled to make a name for himself in the professional wrestling business until he put on clown makeup. As the villainous Doink the Clown, Osborne tickled the audience's fancy with a gimmick that hadn't been seen on television before. Although he never won a major championship, he remained a mainstay of WWE programming in the early 90s. In June 2013, the 55-year-old Osborne died of an accidental drug overdose. While Osborne had a history of addiction, his daughter Tegan and ex-wife Michelle James suggested something far more nefarious could have been at play involving his girlfriend, Connie Cook, in the Dark Side of the Ring episode, What Happened to Doink the Clown. According to them, James had spoken to Osborne the night before he died. He informed her that he was leaving his girlfriend and that if something were to happen to him, she must take it further. James said in the episode, "I said, Matt, what are you talking about? Why would you say that?" He went, "Seriously, don't let it go." Cook denied any wrongdoing in Osborne's death. Film buffs know Roddy Piper for his turn as John Nada in John Carpenter's They Live.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
However, true culture connoisseurs appreciate him for being one of the greatest on-screen bad guys in professional wrestling history. Look no further than his epic feud with Mr. T in the mid-'80s to see exactly what he was all about. Hot Rod loved to torment his opponents and bend the rules to his advantage, becoming a dastardly figure in both WWE and WCW. Even when Piper played a heroic role, everyone knew a swerve was around the corner. In July 2015, Piper died in his sleep at the age of 61. According to the Washington Post, his official cause of death was listed as a heart attack due to a blood clot. Speaking on his Something to Wrestle podcast, Piper's friend and wrestling executive Bruce Pritchard revealed he received a voicemail from Hot Rod the evening before he died. Pritchard explained how Piper wasn't the kind of person who would complain about his health. However, that day he told him he was feeling unwell. Pritchard said on the podcast, he said, "Because I'm not feeling well, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. I just wanted to call and tell you I love you."
That was one of the last calls he made.
Frank Goodish, better known by his stage name Bruiser Brody, lived up to his wrestling moniker, utilizing a bruising style in the ring to punish his opponents. He's also one of the wrestlers who died under suspicious circumstances. In 1988, Brody died after he was stabbed several times in the shower by fellow performer Jose Gonzalez in Puerto Rico. Reportedly, Gonzalez had asked Brody to meet him by the showers to talk, then pulled out a concealed knife to stab Brody. Gonzalez claimed he acted in self-defense and was acquitted of the charges. Throughout the years, Tony Atlas has recalled his version of events on that fateful day, and he did it once again on the Monty and the Pharaoh podcast. Atlas was with Brody and revealed what were some of the performer's final words before he succumbed to his wounds.
Callers come over and ask Brody, say, anything I could do for you. Brody said, take care of my family.
If you or someone you know needs help with addiction issues or is struggling or in crisis, contact the relevant resources below. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP, 1-800-662-4357. Call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org.